Good evening and welcome to Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council, the full council meeting tonight, Wednesday the 17th of December. Usual request, if I may, if you have a mobile phone, please could you either turn it off or at the very least turn it onto airplane mode due to it affecting the transmission. Thank you. So without further ado, I'll move on to item 1, which is public participation. We have some members of the public here tonight. Could you show by raising your hand if you wish to speak, please? Thank you. So, if I could ask you please to move to the microphone and introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Paul Brailsford, a resident of Collington Ward. The villas at the previous meeting, it was stated that the lease would be for 3 years. RDC most likely will not exist, so what happens to the BTC office then? Looking at alternative buildings, either purchasing or leasing longer than 3 years would be a better option. On the 29th of October, a discussion about the neighbourhood board. The question I raised was not fully answered. The chair did not make a declaration of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest at the beginning, although he did say he was a member of the board. Before proposing his motion, he should not have proposed and voted on this motion. I queried the legality of the motion. Like that roundabout sculpture, this question was not fully answered. There has been no updates for this project. I don't know if the council realised it would be the 125th anniversary of the first race in Britain in May in 27. This could be a great way to promote Bexhill. I would be grateful for an update after answering Highways England's questions after answering and submitting their questions months ago. The meeting was 6th of November. I noted the date of the next meeting, the 17th of December. All motions for the next meeting of the full council on the 17th must be received by the 6th of December. These minutes were not uploaded until the 11th. Why? I further observed it is difficult to match the agendas and the minutes, i.e. minutes are numbered 1, 2, 3, etc. Agendas have a different numbering system, 00298, 00299, etc. Minutes should have both numbering systems so that they are easier to follow and trace. Thank you.
Thank you. Just clarifying, is anyone else wishing to speak? Otherwise I shall move on to item 2. Item 2, do we have any apologies for tonight, please? Just to confirm that our clerk is unwell, so we're being supported tonight by a deputy clerk.
Councillor Hunt has work commitments. Councillor Stone on holiday. Councillor Carroll is unwell. Councillor Crotty is unwell. Councillor Earl work commitment. Councillor Ruston personal commitment.
Okay. Probably quite understandable at this time of year. There's a lot of bugs going around, speaking from personal experience. So is it the wish of this council to accept those apologies with the answers as to why? Need the opposer? Lots of proposers. Seconder? All in favour? They've been accepted. Thank you. Moving on to receive...
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Could we have a vote of best wishes, that's the word I'm saying, to the town clerk, and I hope she has a speedy recovery.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, here. Okay, that's noted.
Thank you.
Moving on to declarations of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Who'd like to go first? Councillor Byrne.
Member of Rother District Council.
Thank you.
And board member for the CIC, for Coombe Valley Country Park CIC, but I don't think that's probably going to be relevant.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Drayson.
Member of Rother District Council.
Thank you. Councillor Winter.
Member of Rother District Council, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to item 4, which is the Chair's announcement. I've just got a couple of things I want to say. I really need us to all work together tonight. There's a lot to get through, so I'm looking for a speedy resolution on some of these things, because some of the stuff later on we will need at least 40 minutes in the closed session, so if we can bear that in mind. I would also just suggest that we should, as councillors, be aware sometimes of comments on social media around the word predetermination. If there's a subject matter on an agenda and you make a statement about how you may choose to vote, you're then coming into here in a predetermined mood. So therefore, there could be, if that was to be brought to any chair's attention, they could ask that councillor to leave the meeting because they've already made a statement on socials as to how they would stand. So I'm just reminding people, I think we all probably get carried away sitting in our own house, typing away, and we forget sometimes we're councillors, we have to be aware of predetermination. And with that, I shall move on. Item 5 is, we have 2 sets of minutes because there was an amended set from the 29th of October. So I need a proposer and a seconder to approve the ones for 5A of the 29th of October, please. Do I have a proposer for those? Councillor Blagrove, seconder. Councillor Plim, all those in favour, please. And while we're doing the hands, we'll do 5B, then we can have a bit of time for me to sign them. So a proposer and a seconder for the 26th of November, which is Appendix B.
Excuse me, Chair, can I just speak on 5B, please?
Okay, then I'll sign 5A and we'll come on to
Yeah.
5B. Yeah. There we go. So Appendix B, you have an observation. Councillor.
Yeah, it's been raised by a member of the public just a moment ago. In the minutes of 26th of November, under the public participation section, 00298, there are a number of questions that members of the public were asked. Not all of them have been answered within the minutes here, and so therefore it's difficult because they're not. It's not a true reflection of the minutes because they weren't answered during the minutes, but the questions were, and I just wondered whether we could assist by sort of finding out when the questions are going to be answered.
It's a valid point you raise, and the member of the public raised. The issue is we have Christmas holiday where the office will be shut. We have our clerk who is unwell, so I can't put a timeline on it, but I think it's fair to say that they will be revisited. So with that in mind, are you happy to sign this, or do you want to defer this until the next full council meeting?
It's a strange one because the actual minutes are correct,
Yes.
what we actually spoke about,
Yeah.
and I'm not too sure whether the answers to the questions forms part of the minutes.
I think we could sign them because presumably the request for the full answer will be minuted in
In the next set of
this
minutes.
meeting's minutes.
Yeah, if that's carried forward. Yeah.
So I think I see our deputy clerk writing down the notes to review those. So we can do that, but we have to be aware of the timeliness.
I realise that.
So with that in mind, anybody else wish to comment, or proposer and seconder? Proposer, is that Councillor Drayson? Seconder? Councillor Lee? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's carried unanimously. Yeah. Yeah. Goodness me. There we go. I'm delighted to say I bought a brand new pen tonight, so I'll attend to it. So, moving on to item 6, recommendations from committees. There were none. Moving on to item 7, which is a two-part requirement, 7A. So at this time, I'll hand over to Councillor Blagrove to present the precept side of it, excluding the piece that was added in after the Finance Committee made the decision to refer it to full council.
Thank you very much for handing that over to me. It's something I had no knowledge of whatsoever. I haven't been briefed on it, and it was the first time that I've ever chaired that Finance Committee or any committee in this council, and I obviously don't have any answers for you, but I'm sure with the help of the RFO I will be able to come back with answers next time we are here. Thank you.
So just to explain, that's normal process, whoever chaired the last finance, and I did explain that, but that's okay, because there is an Appendix C, which our IFO has documented, and at the last full council meeting, it was suggested that if there are any questions, that councillors go away, think of the questions and email them, and there have been a few questions, so, all with the exception of the line item which is about 8 up, which is devolution asset expenditure. All the rest has been through the relevant committees. It's been through finance where it was agreed, and it's been through one full council already, and there's been the opportunity to email in. So we're fortunate that, as well as Deputy Clerk, we've got the RFO with us, so if there are any questions, I'm sure that they will be answerable in with Appendix C. So I'll start over on this side. Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have got a motion that I would like to put forward, and it is directly in relation to the precept, and it needs to be put forward before you vote on this, because if it passes, it will have a knock-on effect on this vote. So, if possible, I'd just like to read this out.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I personally believe it is both immoral and fundamentally undemocratic that councillors sitting around this table can raise the town precept to any level they choose without consulting the public. Residents were not consulted on the decisions that have resulted in the precept more than doubling this year, yet they are now expected to meet the cost of those decisions without having had any input whatsoever. I believe there should be a democratic safeguard in place to prevent unlimited or excessive increases to the annual precept without public approval. I did submit a motion for inclusion on this agenda to address the issue. Unfortunately, due to an error on my part, I missed the submission deadline by 2 days. However, as the precept itself is already listed on tonight's agenda, I have been reliably advised by the Town Clerk that I am entitled to table this motion at this meeting, which I now intend to do. The motion is as follows. Requirement for public approval prior to any town precept increase of 100% or more within a single financial year. I am willing to change that percentage figure to an actual figure if required. I am therefore asking for a seconder so that this motion may be discussed in more detail. If seconded, I have copies of the original motion available to circulate to councillors so that it may be properly considered. RDC councillors have a conflict of interest here, as this year's increases of over £1 million are directly related to assets moving from RDC balance sheets and onto our balance sheets. Therefore, they should be excluded from the budget approval vote, but they are naturally free to vote on this motion, and I actively encourage it. Finally, I request that this vote is recorded so that residents can clearly see how each councillor has voted on this matter. Thank you for listening.
Okay. There's a lot in there. Before I come over to count, I'll just deal with that. The recorded vote, yes, you've asked for that, we can do that. My understanding is it's down to the personal choice. Having declared an interest as a district councillor, it's down to the councillors to choose whether they stay for it if it impacts their role. That's down to the personal choice. That's the advice we've been given before by Robert. So that we've got 3 here tonight. That's down to those 3 to choose whether they stay or not. So is everyone clear with what is being suggested? So first off, have you got a seconder?
Can we please have the what you said you've brought with you, one for everybody, that we could just quickly scan read that, please?
I will just clarify, the reason why I've allowed it is not because it was submitted late in error, it's because the item is an agenda item on the agenda, i.e. the budget. So I'm not breaking any rules, just to be clear. There is another potential issue behind this. It is the reason why, we know the reason why this is significantly greater, and that is because we have 50% added to what the probable costs are for the assets that we've all requested from Rother through the expressions of interest which have been agreed in the business plan submitted as per previous meetings. So we do have an option.
Can I suggest we can concentrate and read this because it's hard with you talking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair. Before we actually go through this, can we
Can I
find
just,
out
can
whether
you
we've got
pass that?
seconders?
'Cause I've been asked to not talk.
Reading it to see if anyone wants to second it.
I can't. Everyone had the chance to digest it? Yes? Councillor Plym, you wish to say something? I'm sorry to stop you, but I couldn't
it's
pass
just-
around.
It's been answered by my colleague here. I was wondering why we were actually finding out about the motion when we haven't actually had a seconder for that motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Councillor Blagrove wanted to read it before we found a seconder. So do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Blagrove or so, okay? So, debate time. As I started saying, we do have the opportunity of reducing it down below 100% if that's the number that is in the motion that's presented, because what is driving it is the 50% added on about line 8 up from the bottom, devolution asset expenditure. We could reduce that down, which would then reduce the increase. Councillor Goss.
Yeah, I felt the same about that figure going in. I mean, in fact, at the last meeting when it was discussed, I abstained because I wasn't too happy with it. Going on the basis that a lot of it has now been delayed anyway, the mayoral vote, etc., is put back a year or 2 years, I think, or something, and these things are unlikely to happen. And on the history of, we had virtually no information from RDC that was asked for. We were railroaded into accepting things. The way they go about it, I assume it's unlikely to happen before the year 27, 28. In any case, do we need it in this year's precept?
I think I can answer that in so much as there have been some changes in the timescale, but that's the mayoral authority, which is a different setup to the LGR that's going on. So Rother and the other borough and district councillors will still go through that process. So if we choose not to take that and defer it, we do have the risk of it not coming to us but going to the unitary. So it's two, just to be very clear, the mayor and LGR are 2 different processes.
Okay.
They just happen to be in the same time
But
band.
bearing in mind the time that RDC have taken to do anything else with us, which is, a simple park lease is over a year.
Yeah.
Is it likely that we are going to take over £1 million worth of, I think it was 40 assets or something, in the next financial year?
There's 31, and if I knew the answer to that, I would give it to you.
I just couldn't see it happening, to be honest.
The advice that we've been given is that it is likely to happen at some time during the year 26-27, which is our next financial year. That's what we've been told.
Yeah, that is what we've been told.
So it's very difficult for our officers or myself and the deputy to say, I don't think that's going to happen, if that's the advice and the information we've been given. So I think we have to take it on face value. In my very small and simplistic way of looking at things, I can't see us taking on the 1st of April the whole lot, because 31 items say here we are. There will be a drag through that year, and I have no idea how that's likely to work. But I think the easiest thing for this motion is to look at the complete amount. We know how much it is from the numbers that we've been given, and the suggestion was, which is what was agreed at the last full council meeting, was to put in the value of adding 50% to allow for incidentals and anything else that crops up. Bearing in mind that the recreation grounds, etc., are based on the already reduced contract that was put in place, and we may want to change that. So we have the option of reducing the amount on here down, which could then potentially deal with the motion that we've got. Councillor Blagrove was next, and I'll come next.
So councillors are being asked to approve this budget and precept, which represents a 120% increase on last year.
Yep.
The simple way to explain the massive raise for people that don't know is, and the rise in this tax is regarding the assets which have been sent over to us from RDC in preparation for devolution. These things are such things as parks, green spaces, play parks, and more than that. We have shortlisted things that we believe the residents would want to keep, and the problem is that if we don't take them on, they may be lost forever. This puts us between a rock and a hard place. Do we keep the assets and raise the precept, or do we let them go? I have a problem with the public suddenly finding out that their council tax will be going up a huge amount when they have no idea what or why is making this situation. This is because we are holding closed sessions on the subject of assets, which I don't think is very transparent unless it is commercially sensitive, in which case it would be unavoidable. The residents are paying for decisions we are making, and they deserve to see and hear what we are doing. Thank you.
Okay, we have had closed sessions, you're right. We had one open session, and at the time of that we didn't understand and didn't know the finances incurred or potentially incurred, but we have discussed it on film. I believe it was the August, it might have been the July meeting, but that's when I said keep it confidential, and I listened to the room and councillors wanted it to discuss. So we have discussed these assets, and yes, we didn't know the number value attached to it, but everything costs money. So residents should be, if they are looking and watching the videos every single month, we did discuss that back in either July or August. It's not ideal, but when we are told things are in confidence, we have to keep them in confidence, particularly if they are commercially sensitive, which the last two were. Councillor Thomas.
I appreciate, if we take on all these things, the costs are going to rocket. But surely if we make clear that they're going to be costing residents the same, whether or not it goes to it comes to us or goes to strategic authority.
It's the same cost, it's what bucket it comes out of.
It's just a different pot.
Councillor Drayson.
Thank you. I redeclare my interest as being a member of the Rother and will speak on this because I can assure you I as a councillor have had no input in any decisions made by the officers over asset disposal. I very much like this motion. I think it has a lot to say for it because 100% in one go is a shock to the system. But my problem was the timing. Like the first time I've heard it was tonight, and the pressure is on for us to decide a budget. But your point, Chair, the guesswork that was involved on Rother's point about the values, plus the guesswork of add 50%, surely allows us to reduce the precept tonight to half of what it is, to 500,000, we would still keep it, because to not put it in the precept would possibly risk a big shock next year. So let's halve it between this year and next year. If it all goes suddenly on top, I'm not sure what we do. If Rother get its act together by December, we might be 2026. We might be struggling, but there are reserves that could possibly tide us over. So I very much like this motion, and I'd love to reduce that line in the budget that's £1,040,000 to 500,000 and reduce the precept accordingly, if that's possible. Thank you, Chairman.
Just to clarify, without anything added, it's just over 694,000 without anything added. So we could do something like that, which is what I suggested. We can play with that number, because I very much can't see everything rocking up on day one. The risk is that some of the items that we take may not be maintained in the same way as they currently are, but we do have reserves that we could dip into if we needed to.
So just a further point on that, Bexhill Bowling Club, for example, its lease with Rother was due to start, or did start on the 1st of December. We've just had it to actually agree, and they want it in a hurry up now.
Yeah. I'll come back to you, Councillor Peters. Councillor Goff.
Which doesn't Councillor Thomas point, or what you said about it's out of one bucket or the other. At the last meetings, it was generally said that it wasn't that we can't expect for our residents a reduction in what RDC charge if we take over the charge. There is no guarantee of that, so we could end up paying double for it, effectively.
Yeah, I think it was more around the strategic authority versus us. So if Rother isn't there, the strategic authority might have to. But that is an unknown. It's a fair comment, and I don't want to mislead anyone. That is a fair comment, that's not for us to get involved in, that's other authorities.
Well, it is, but it's our residents who
Yes,
are going to
it is.
end up paying twice as much
Yes,
if
it
it's
is.
not reduced on the other side.
Yeah. Councillor Peters.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, we keep talking about this green list of 31 items. Just 3 of those items make up £500,000. And, you know, this needs to be, people need to know this. I'm not going to name them, obviously, but just 3 of them. So you're not, the 31 is irrelevant, but the ones we're taking on, just 3 of them can...
We have clarified, it's not in confidence now. If you wish to name the 3 that take up that much, you can do. We have all the details here. If you, so, who was next? I'm not sure which. I'll go this side. Councillor Jacklin.
I don't think we were expecting this when we were elected, and therefore, as I think Councillor Blagrove has pointed out, the residents may not be expecting it, and it's a bit of a shock. So I don't think we've really got the remit to increase it, and I don't think we've been able to do a thorough examination of all of the assets. We've just basically had to say, yeah, we'll take some, although I do realise that some people want them. So I kind of support the motion, but I also quite like Councillor Drayson's idea of reducing it to a more palatable amount.
Okay, Councillor Flynn.
I'm going to buck the trend here. I don't support the motion. When I was first elected, I was elected to a tin pot parish council who only had to look after the allotments. But I had ambitions for this council, and that council was to grow and service the community of 45 to 50,000 people, and appropriately to the size of that community. In order to serve the people of 40 to 50,000 people, we have to have assets and we have to have services, and that is going to cost money. If you are going to increase a small parish council by any amount, you're going to go over the 100%. So to put in a statement on here saying the council shall not approve an annual precept increase of 100% will drastically restrict any growth this council wants to make at a time when the potential is there for this council to grow, and to grow in the same way that Hastings and Eastbourne are currently operating. They're having to downsize their structure but their assets and their services are, on the whole, going to stay the same. And they've got costs involved with that. So we will be looking at our neighbouring councils alongside us and emulating what they're doing. And our precept will be more or less the same. I can't say exactly the same, obviously, because they're higher populations. But that's what we should be aiming for. Otherwise, we can be stuck as a parish council and forgotten about, as the unitary authority will take control of assets and services from this town. And if you're happy for a remote council to run this town, then vote for this. But if you're not, vote for growth and go against this, please.
Okay. Councillor Winter was next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm in slightly two minds about the whole thing, not just the motion, but the budget, everything. Because, as Councillor Plymouth just said, one part of me is thinking we've got to grow, because the residents will moan that the precept's gone up, understandably. Everybody doesn't want an increase in anything. But at the same time, they'll moan when Edgerton Park is closed.
Yeah.
But to stop Edgerton Park closing, they'll have to pay more. So it's balancing those two arguments. Which moan do you want to take? It is what we've got to look at.
Yeah.
But I'm still undecided how I'm going to vote on the budget, on this motion, until I hear everybody. But I think, as I said in the closed session at the last November full council, through this whole devolution process, and just to start off with, we've been given this so-called green asset list. It's been foisted upon us by the district council. With a very clear message that you either take these assets, or we're just going to close them and get rid of them. Because the strategic authority that's coming in does not have, for the most part, any major responsibility in keeping parks and toilets and etc. open. So they're going to do what they need to do. Whereas we can take those things and grow them, as Councillor Plymouth just said. But to do that, we've got to spend money. We've got to raise money and then spend the money. But that's going to come with some backlash. But I think, as I said in the last meeting, we need to make it abundantly clear in whatever decision we take tonight, and make it abundantly clear to the residents, because they're, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be questioning it either way, is, this is not our choice, per se. This is, as I said, being foisted upon us by the district council and by the government. And this is it's not local choice, it is just pressure being passed down the line.
Okay. Councillor Peters.
Yeah, I just want to clarify to Councillor Winters, this is not me saying that you cannot raise the precept. This is saying that if you're going to raise it, you need to consult the public. That's what I'm saying here. Okay, I'm not saying we shouldn't raise it above 100%. I'm saying if we're going to raise it above 100%, you need to consult the public.
Okay. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you. I largely agree with Councillor Flynn. The issue here seems to be, are we getting value for money? Forget for a moment who is going to pay for these local facilities. The thing that we should be doing as councillors is making sure that we get the best possible maintenance contracts, the best possible deal on the assets that we're being asked to take over. And to put the rise in precept in context, if you look at the table that gives Band C, is going to be £20 a year, which is something like, and I think I worked it out roughly, the back of a fact packet, it's 2 cups of coffee or a pint of beer per week for a lot of services, which we would run the risk of putting them in limbo if we don't take them. And that's the problem, because neither Rother District Council, and sorry, I should have redeclared my membership of Rother District Council, they don't know nobody has gone through this exercise before. And what I would say is that on our budget, any of the public who keep track of this have seen us debate quite long and loud the costs of the various assets, and that led to us saying, yes, we do want this and we don't want that. So I really do feel it's a shame that it's going up in one lump. I would be very happy to see any amelioration that can be made by way of phasing those possible increase, because we're still talking about possible, not definite. But to go back to the public every time. It's a bit like referendums. Everyone says when something comes up nationally, we should have a referendum. That's not how our democracy works. And if you look at the countries who do that, they're in a mess. We meet in public, largely. The public have, via the recordings, they can see our debate on, as I say, the cost of the individual budgetary items. We've been through this budget line by
Sorry,
line.
can we not
discussed.
talk when councillor's talking, because it comes up on the recording?
We've been through this line by line. So the public will know what's happening. And this debate tonight is, I hope, illuminating. And I think Councillor Winter put it, it's not so much a rock as a hard place, but we know that these things cost money. What we're arguing about at the moment is, do the residents who are paying for these things pay it to Rother, pay it to a unitary, or pay it to us? With the proviso that if we say we're not having it, we're not sure, we are sure that Rother won't exist, so they won't have it, but we're not sure what the unitary will do. So if we want to ensure that we keep these assets, the best thing we can do to the public is make sure that we run them in the most economical way possible. But I just as a principle, I don't like the idea of going back to the electorate again and again and again. We do it once a year. It's up to the electorate to be involved and to read our manifestos and make the decisions accordingly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go up straight ahead. Councillor Goss. and I'll move
Yeah,
on.
I accept the thing on referendum that they don't often achieve an awful lot anyway. Not many people seem to respond to them, unfortunately. But at the same time, I think the public do need to be brought into it, even if it's in the page on the local paper that we put in, that something should be on there about it, for them to become engaged in it without it being dropped on them. And I mean, a similar thing, we have, I think, been badly treated by Rother. They haven't provided information that we've asked for. We suddenly got this list at the last meeting, which we had to agree something on there and then, because they gave us a week to respond to it. And at the same time, this idea of, yeah, it's going to cost from somebody, it's not a matter of it's going to cost from somebody, that's fine, if it balances somewhere. But at the moment, it's mainly parks and that sort of thing. We have special expenses in the Rother budget for Bexhill. If those special expenses disappear, there's over 700k in for parks. If that disappeared and the Rother precinct came down accordingly, so we didn't get the special expenses in there, no doubt it will disappear, but it needs to come down accordingly, and it goes on ours, that's fine. I can understand that. But it's when there is no response from Rother on whether it's going to come down or not, and I know they're tight on money, as we all are. If it balances out, that's fine. But if it doesn't, the residents are all going to be up in arms about the fact that, well, we're already paying them, why are we paying again? Which is going to happen, it's happened before, and it will. This is far bigger than what happened before.
Okay, I'll move on, but can I respectfully ask that I'm just going to give everyone one more opportunity, because otherwise we'll be here till 10 o'clock just talking about this. Councillor Plym.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask the RFO with regards to item 2 on here, when it says we asked whether to demand a parish poll under the parish and community meetings. One, the timescales involved. How will that in fact affect our budget and how we present that to the Rother in order to look at the precept we're going to have if we were to go ahead with this? And 2, what are the costs?
In answer to the first question, obviously you'd have to start budgeting processes way earlier in the year than Bexhill does at the moment. The whole point, if I can just go sort of answer you but also do some backfill as well to this. The reason why obviously Rother and other higher authorities are struggling to balance their books is because they can't increase their precept over a certain percent. the luxury of, or not luxury, we have as a parish or town, or any parish and town council, is that we don't have that caveat, we don't have that restriction, which is why when you look across all of the town and parishes that are going through the devolution of assets coming up, are going to be in similar scenarios where their budget is going to be going up considerably because of the districts and council and boroughs are going to offload their assets. Assets cost money. That's the bottom line of it, I'm afraid. Other councils have already done that over the years by devaluing their assets. So certain councils, I'll use Wilden as an example, is the case that over the years they've done that over a series of time, so that, and when new developments have come on, them assets and open spaces and players have been already handed straight over to the towns and parishes with Section 106 or seal money or that goes with that to maintain it. Rother hasn't done that over the years for whatever reason that is. I don't know. I haven't got the back history to that. And this is where we are. They are in a situation where their assets are going to be devalued and they're going to come down the line to parish and town councils, and with that comes cost. If you don't want to run things, then if you don't want to have increases in your precepts, you have to decide what you don't want to run. In relation to whether you go out to consultation with the public, that's going to be a time-consuming process. Fund-wise, I don't know. If it's anything like election costs and such like, you're talking probably thousands to do that. But where we are, if you put restrictions on the percentage of increase, the potential you've got is ending up in a similar situation as district and borough councils are now. That's all.
Thank you very much.
That's
Very
as best
precise.
as it.
Thank you.
Councillor Drayson.
Thank you. One point, Councillor Jacqueline, we do have the remit. It comes with the territory of being a councillor. You do have the remit to make these decisions, unfortunately. And whereas I was very much in favour of this motion, I totally agree with Councillors Plym, Winter and Byrne. And I was going to make the point that he just made about the impossible timing. Look how long we've taken to get to it. If you put a public consultation in that as well, we'll be starting next week for 2027.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of coming down against it, but I do think perhaps because of the time and because of the way Rother have dumped this on us, albeit they didn't have a lot of choice, we should look to reducing that $1 million for this year.
And we have an option to do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who's next on this side? Councillor Blagrove, did you have your hand up earlier or are you okay?
No, thank you. Somebody
Thank
else
you.
said what I was going to say. Thanks.
Councillor Winter?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just 2 points, really quickly. Number one, what Councillor Byrne said earlier about the increase for a Band C property is completely way out. You know, £20 or something like that. You know, it's £63 for a Band D property. So it's going to be, you know, in the region of £40 to £50 for a Band C. Second point,
£1 a week.
and it's just picking up, and it's going to be a lot more than just a coffee. Picking up on what Councillor Peters said, you know, I'm totally for going out and asking the public what they think, but we wouldn't actually need to do that if we as a council explained ourselves and explained the situation and was more transparent with the public better. We wouldn't need to go out and ask them because they would be fully, as best as they can be, fully informed. If we explain the situation that we're in because of Rother and because of the wider LGR situation, we wouldn't need to go out and talk to the public. So it's not that I'm against talking to the public or against going out and asking them and doing a parish poll, although the result of a parish poll, as my understanding, is not binding. It's down to the councillors to decide, so it would be almost pointless doing a parish poll. My argument is we, as a corporate body, when going through this process, need to communicate it better to the public for our benefit and what we're going through and why we're making these decisions.
And we all need to understand the background behind it and how we've got to this situation, because we will get asked. Just to clarify a number which might help, the £1 million just over that's on here at the moment, a Band D based upon last year's figures equates to £1.22 a week.
Thank you.
Extra. If we agree that million. So it's £1.22 a week for a Band D.
I never said it wasn't a pound.
Our RFO did the case. Just to clarify that, puts it into context. So go around this side. Councillor Peters.
Yeah, so just two quick things. Firstly, I can help you with a timeline. It's not as drastic and as bad as you're making out. You have to give 7 days notice for a parish meeting, and if a poll is called at that parish meeting, 14 days. So you can be done and it can still be resolved before January, which is when the RDC needs to have our precept in. And what the second thing was now. I'll pass you on something else I forgot.
Okay, all right. Councillor Jacklin.
I like Councillor Goss's suggestion of communicating via the newspaper, etc., and explaining the fact that if it's, let's say, 20% is an increase due to town rangers or premises costs, and 100% is down to assets that have been transferred via Rother. And I think we will have to make a similar decision in a year's time. So perhaps we ought to explain that, and I'm not clear whether there will be other assets, and so therefore there will be even more of this. And then there's an election coming, and in the absence of this group of councillors having discussed a strategy as to what is our point and what do we want to do, we're forever basically accepting the lot, which I think is wrong, and could we spend next year deciding what we want to do?
Okay. Who's next? Councillor Thomas.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Jacklin and Councillor Winter. It's essential that we, as a council, make it absolutely clear, transparent, call it what you like. What we don't want is so-called anti-social media, or anti-social media as I call it.
I quite like that phrase.
They will spread rubbish.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure that our residents know exactly why it's going up 100 or more.
Okay.
Last thing is
As is your motion, I'll let you speak one final time before I sum
I've
up.
just remembered. So I mean, I was going to say, I know you're talking about like £1.10 or whatever. I did get an email last year when we raised it by 16%, which equated to about 55p. I think it was then about 55p for that person's ban. So yeah, we are going to get emails over this if this goes ahead. We are going to, because I got one for 55p a week. So
and we all need to be signed on to that and in preparation for it. So I think I've given everyone enough time to chat it through. I've got a few comments I'd like to make, if that's okay. Bexhill Town Council is in the top 10 biggest towns in the United Kingdom. Currently we're running on £900,000 a year. I concur with Councillor Plim that I would be amazed if residents weren't aware of what is coming down, and we should look to grow this council and take on assets and look after it locally. With all of that comes a cost. And personally, I stood up in a church pre-town council and predicted our precept would be £1.2 million after 4 years, and I was laughed out the church. Someone said to me that town and parish councils won't be measured on what they put in a precept, they'll be measured on what we do. And we have an opportunity with these 31 items, and there are potential other ones coming down the track next year, to actually really make a difference in our town. And I'm uncomfortable with taking the risk of it going somewhere else, because we wouldn't then be able to improve it should we wish to. And I hope we would wish to. I'm mindful of the motion that Councillor Peters has put forward, which I think has got some traction, I'm hearing, and I think there is an easy way to solve this, which is to potentially take a risk and change that number 8 lines up to something less, which is somewhere around the figure that we have been quoted at 694,000 something, and that will get it very close to the 100%. We could take a risk, as Councillor Drayson has said, and make it at 500,000, because I think it could be very unlikely that it all comes down the track on the first day of our next financial year. So there may not be that much of a risk if we did that, and that would solve the 100%. I'm not sure whether we would need the motion. I started off thinking, yes, that's the right thing to do, because to double it is wrong. Would we be sitting here next year looking to make it 4 million? I think it's unlikely. I think this is a one-off that, because even if you put it up $1 million next year, it's only going to be 50% if it's based on 2 million this year. So I don't think we actually need the motion. If we concur as a group of councillors that we targeted getting it under the 100% this year, it will be the only year that we ever have to do that, is my view. I don't believe that it's necessary to do a poll of the public, because we're here fulfilling the public's wishes. And if you go out on a poll and get the answers, you might get the answer you don't want to get, and you don't have to do it anyway. As Councillor Winter says, you don't have to adhere to it. So it seems like a waste of money, and I'm not sure whether we would have time for this year to do that, because this number has to be with Rother by, I think it's the 20-something of January.
I'm waiting to hear from Rother. I still haven't had the information regarding tax base yet.
Yeah, so that's how I stand. I think it's a one-off situation, and I think there's some jiggery-pokery that could be done around the 1040 down somewhat to get it under the 100,000. But we have a proposer. We did have a seconder, otherwise we wouldn't have debated it. So it's going to the vote, because we've debated it long enough whether we want to put this in the... Do you want to reread your motion, Councillor Peters, just so everyone's 100% clear?
Yeah. The motion was just requirement for public approval prior to any precept increase of 100% or more in any single financial year. I'm not going to read out the two pages, that.
Okay. So, proposer and seconder. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And it's a recorded vote. So, Councillor Jacklin, Councillor Peters, Councillor Greygrove. All those against that motion, please show.
Chair,
Abstentions?
will you have to call the names out as it's recorded for the fours as well?
I can do. All those against, then.
All those four.
All those four.
You did, right?
I
all
did.
Those against.
So if it's 4, the rest will be against.
Well, yeah, but
So Councillor Plim, Councillor Drayson, you can't be 4 and against. We're doing the against now. Councillor Winter, Councillor Lee, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Byrne. And myself. So that motion's fallen. But I think people around the table have listened to it in principle, and I think... So, okay. Very good debate, thank you. We now go back to agreeing the precept for the year 26-27. So the easiest, maybe, is to go down to the 8th line up, that big number. We do have the option of reducing that. I might ask an RFO to talk about some numbers, because I'm quite good with numbers, but she's much better.
I wonder, Chair, have we got a copy of the sheet? Because I couldn't get mine printed out.
The big one?
Yeah.
Yes, we do have some.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone all okay with necessary glasses or whatever they've got to... So I'm going to pass you to the IVO, because she's got some suggestions and ideas on how this may be more acceptable or acceptable.
Okay, so obviously, yeah, like we spoke about, that's a massive difference from obviously the previous year's precept of 917,400. If you keep it as it is, as per my original document that came out with the agenda, then it would be looking at, based on a Band D property for 26-27, with the current tax base at last year's, because I haven't received the tax base from Rover yet, would be £116.52 per Band D property for the year, which then equates to an increase of £63.56, which equates to an extra £1.22 a week. Now the option is you remove the whole 50% uplift, so you just have their flat income and expenditure and without their additional 50% uplift, which would mean that it would be basically an extra 83 pence a week on a Band D property, equating to £96.51 per year, an increase of £43.54. Now, obviously, that would then get that below the 100% increase, which was mentioned in the previous motion by Councillor Peter. The other option is to build in part of the uplift to prepare for any additional costs should they need it, and going along the lines of possibly Councillor Drayson's suggestion is that you increase with an uplift of 25%, which would then equate to an extra £1.03 per week for a Band D property, bringing in at just about 100% increase, but equaling £106.53 per year for a Band D property, and £53.56 would be the increase for the year from the current Band D to that. So they're the three possibilities that there's numerous possibilities, and you could be here for the whole evening discussing the possibilities, but for the, just for a rationale, and that's how I've looked at splitting the options for you. Does that?
Yeah, so the minimum risk is adding 25%, which would then put the pound and threepence on and keep it at 101% increase.
Which I know sounds scary for everybody, and it is a big increase, but obviously you've been a council that hasn't taken on any assets or very little assets since it formed, and now this was always going to be a day that was coming for Bexhill-on-Sea, whether that was obviously, and it's coming along the track a lot faster because of the local government reorganisation. So that's unfortunately the situation we're in from central government, and obviously the assets being held by Rover, which is 50% of assets unfortunately fortunately sit within Bexhill area.
So Councillor Drayson was first, and I'll come to you, Councillor Byrne.
If I was in any way sure that a calculator and various computers have been used to come to the figure of 1 million, and I would not suggest reducing it, but I don't think it is that accurate. I don't think it was that. It had various bits added on it, so I would move that we go to the 500,000. I know that's still a sizable increase, but it's half of what it could have been, and it will, so it's not a straight option, but it will lessen the blow, because no doubt we will have to increase next year as we get more assets.
And that is a risk associated with that, because if it's not enough, then we get more stuff coming down the track next year, we'll be in exactly the same position next year as what we are now. That's the risk. So we have to be aware of that. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Chair. This is a question, really. We're saying, do we take the risk to reduce those numbers? And the risk is that things might move faster than we're expecting.
Yep.
Now, what's the downside of that risk? Could we meet any increase that we weren't expecting? Could we meet that from reserves?
We have just short of 400,000 in reserves. So we could cover that off, but then we wouldn't have anything else for anything else. So the other thing is, if stuff comes down the track slower, whatever we agree to put in there now, if we don't use it, it can go in earmarked reserves for the next year to prevent next year's potential.
I'm just trying to clarify the actual risk that we're taking, and the answer is that the bottom line is we don't go broke, but we might have to do some moving of reserves.
Yeah, we'd have to do.
And that is unlikely with the current timescales of all the other things that are to do with devolution.
I'm sure our RFO, knowing how she uses a environment process, would be coming back to us and moving things around.
Yes.
So, but it is a risk.
Yeah, but not as badly as it's not as bad as it would be had we no reserves.
We've taken years to get to this stage of substance to prepare for a lot of actions that we want to do, and we may have to. That's a risk.
Yeah.
Councillor Jacklin.
I would support a proposal to reduce the amount of money in the increase due to devolution. I also think another mitigating factor could be basically to say to Rother, we're not actually ready to take that on yet because we haven't got the money. And I think that may also then force us to have that conversation I referred to earlier that we haven't really had, which is what are we supposed to be doing. I think if you go for that, whatever happens, it does need that clear communication to residents, which might be along the lines of a third of the increase is down to rangers, etc. And then we've got 2/3 of the increase being devolution.
I agree. It's the communication side of it. It's when the council tax bill drops on someone's letter box midway through April that we'll start getting bombarded, I suspect.
It will be an effective form of communication, won't
yes.
it?
Yes. Yeah. Just around about the time of our annual parish meeting. Okay. So, Councillor Plym.
Yet again, I'd like to buck the trend. I'd like to follow the RFO's recommendation to recommend the budget and submit the precept request according to the document here of 2,018,168. Sounds a lot of money. It is a lot of money. There's a lot of services and a lot of assets that are going to come along with it. I think it would be prudent to do that because the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you have to bite into your reserves. Because once you bite into your reserves, it's a very steep financial hill you have to climb to get back into that financial position. And therefore, we could be in the same position in 2 or 3 years' time that all the district councils are in, where they're scratching their heads trying to figure out what services to cut and what to get rid of because they can't afford to carry on. So I would think this is prudent to accept this budget and go forward in a strong position and ensure that this council grows from strength to strength.
Can I just clarify, are we specifically talking about the devolution asset expenditure line at the moment, or are we talking about the whole piece?
I was talking about the whole piece.
Okay. Okay. So
that's what to note and approve the budget. So
is that what you're suggesting? Would you have a seconder to that?
I don't know yet. After I've said that, we'll have a look.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Plym's suggestion? We have a seconder. Do we have any other options? Bearing in mind we haven't talked about all the other lines yet, because I've got 2 issues that I'd like to raise. Or shall we raise? Let's go through it all. We have got a seconder, so that's a motion that is being considered. Does anybody have anything else in the detail that they wish to raise that they're not agreeing with? Bearing in mind it's been through committees and finance and here once. So I'll raise 2 subjects. Just so you're aware, the neighbourhood plan has 20,000 in it, but there's an action for our clerk to investigate whether that is a worthwhile exercise right now with the changes. So I would recommend leaving it in there. If we don't use it, it will go into earmarked reserves, because at some point, and if we do a neighbourhood plan, it won't cost us 60,000, it will be more like 100,000, so we need to still prepare for that. So I'm just flagging that. It's a significant increase. We talked about 100%, that's a 2,000% increase. 20% 200. A big increase. The other thing is the civic regalia, which is £7,000. I have made my points through the committee structure, where it went to finance and where it came out of I find it, I'm not sure it's really appropriate right now to spend £7,000 on getting some ex-past deputy mayor's badges. We don't even have a badge on the mayoral outfit that says Mayor of Bexhill. So I'm only saying that because I'm standing by what I've said at the committee that it's under, and the finance, which I'm a member of. So they're my two observations. I think we should leave the neighbourhood plan in as it is, and I think we should reduce down the 7,000 because it works out at £600 odd per badge because you've got to get the thing built in the first place. And I just think it's, from a resident's point of view, I would struggle to substantiate that when you're talking about these assets that we're going to grow. So, Councillor Plym.
Yeah, as chair of the Communication Engagement Committee, where the subject of past mayoral badges was discussed, we have yet to come to a figure. This is just a broad figure that was put ahead because we couldn't make decisions quick enough for this to come by. So all this excitement about the amount of money that's on there is false excitement because we haven't made that decision. We did not present that figure to full council or to the finance committee. It was placed in there because it was a ballpark figure that was just going to carry on in order to ensure that we had money there. So until we actually come to settling that amount of money, it's irrespective to talk about that sort of, and it's a small percentage of the actual budget.
I agree. The issue with it is when the value came in, it was in between.
The committee has not had a chance to discuss it.
But it won't have because the precept's got to be agreed tonight. That's the issue. So you're absolutely right. The committee hasn't discussed that, but it's in the precept because if you don't put it in the precept tonight, the committee won't be able to agree or disagree. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Nodding. Councillor Winter.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Plym actually took half of my point that he was going to say, but my other half is that the £7,000 noted in civic regalia, as you was told at finance and as you was told at the Engagement and Communications Committee, the £7,000 quoted in there for civic regalia is not just for ex-deputy mayor badges. The town clerk has told you on two occasions that actually that civic regalia budget partly is a sort of estimated figure, as Councillor Plym has just said, until the committee gets the full figure for former deputy mayor badges, and the other part of the budget is for other civic regalias, for instance, the mayor's badges and additional regalia and repairs of regalia, as it states in the notes of the budget. So just to clear for the public's perspective, it's not £7,000 for former deputy mayor's badges.
So does anybody else want to raise any issues? Otherwise, we've got to deal with this, and time is of a premium. Councillor Drayson?
I will just say that the government published a new national planning policy framework document today or yesterday, and it does start, I haven't read it, it's 127 pages, but it does start again restating how important local policies and local plans are. So I suspect the neighbourhood plan eventually will get there, but they don't specify that. And I suppose I should put my money where my mouth is and suggest an amendment to Councillor Plym's motion of suggesting that the line on devolution asset expenditure be reduced to 500,000, and then the budget is approved. I don't know if I was going to second that, but I should put my money where my mouth.
I'll second that.
Okay.
It's too late once yours has been agreed.
Do we have any other thoughts on that? We have a proposer and a seconder. We pretty much debated that thoroughly. I would like to put a second option in there, which is to do the 694,000, which is what was suggested by Rother as the complete cost without any uplift. So, do I have a seconder for that? I've got a seconder, so we've got two options.
Three.
I've got three.
Three.
Councillor Plym already put in.
That fell.
No, we didn't.
Oh, sorry, three options. Right, okay. Where's Councillor Hussain when I need him? Three options then. So the full amount, 694-ish, or 500 exactly.
And
that right?
And then your
Right, that's the second one, 694-ish. It's whatever the without any uplift was. So they're the three. So the million, the 694, and the 500 on that line. Yeah.
Yes, I just wonder what order you're going to do it.
So I'm just going to ask people to show their hands. All those in
no,
favour.
it has consequentials, and so therefore you've got to look at the financial consequentials. There's got to be a particular order in it, I think, on the three, because to accept one will knock out two, to accept the other one won't necessarily knock out another one. So you've just got to.
So we do one round of voting on all three numbers, and the lowest one gets knocked out, and you do a final vote.
I realise that, but it's the order those numbers come in.
Why doesn't it happen in the order of them?
As received.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, we'll do that then.
Would that
Everyone
be-
happy with
That's
that?
acceptable, yeah.
Yes.
Everyone happy with that? Right. All those in favour of line item, we know the line item begins with devolution.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
I'm just working that through, because if you're going to do it in the order with Councillor Plim's take the whole lot,
Yeah.
that surely is our fallback position if the other two don't succeed. If we've kicked that out first of all,
Surely that's the first one. If that passes,
the others get kicked
the
out.
others get kicked out.
We just vote
Yeah.
on all three to raise your hand on item 1, item 2 and item 3, and we'll count the votes.
Technically, my motion would be the substantive motion, and the others are
Amendments.
amendments to those that motion.
Yes. We should vote on Councillor Plim's motion first.
Amendments.
If you vote on that, then you don't have to consider the other two. That will just go through yes or no. That'll be yes or no. Okay. So we think we're going to vote on Councillor Plim's motion first, in favour or not in favour. And if that goes through, then that will be passed.
Yes.
You can't have a second vote if that one goes through. You've got to propose who's had a seconder. Just to be clear, if there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If 6 vote for that, we will agree that there and then.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All those in favour?
Can I just read out what the motion is so everybody understands what the motion will be? To follow through the RFO's recommendation that the budget of 2,259,437 and submit a precept request of 2,018,168 from Rother District Council.
So as per items 7A and B.
I could have said it like that.
Okay? All those in favour of that, please show. 1, 2. Are we doing a recorded vote?
Yes, please, yeah.
Recorded vote. All those in favour of that, Councillor Plim, Councillor Blagrove, Councillor Lee, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Byrne. All those against that, please show. Councillor Goss, Councillor Winter, Councillor Peters, Councillor Jacklin and Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Jacklin. Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Peters. All those were against, there should be another one.
So I've got Goss, Winter, Peters, Jacklin, Wilson against.
Is that right? Yeah. So 5 against, so it's 5 all.
Yeah.
4.
Somebody must have abstained.
Abstentions.
Abstentions? 1 abstention. Numbers add up, thank you. Oh dear. So I would have the casting vote whether we accept that or not. As at 5 all, as chair, I would have the casting vote.
Do you want a coin?
I'm going to vote for it, even though I voted against it, because I've listened, and it's not the first time I've done that either. I voted for that at 1040. So that is the budget and precept agreed.
Well done, Chair, thank you.
So the second and third item don't come into play. Right. We're running about 25 minutes late from where I was hoping to get to, so we may have to defer a couple of items. But that was a really important discussion. Thank you for all the involvement. So, Mayor and Chair's report. I'm going to read it and then I will send it on so councillors who are not here get the benefit of it. And here we are, my final report for 2025. Whilst this month is very often a busy one for mayors, this only covers a 3-week period, and regrettably I was unwell for one of those weeks, meaning I couldn't attend 5 things, so it really only covers 2 weeks. That said, I still have many opportunities to support some of the brilliant voluntary organisations. A couple of trips outside of Bexhill-on-Sea boundary enabled me to spread the word of some of the great achievements that are happening here. As always, I'd like to highlight a couple of events. The awards evening that was organised by Lynn Langlands for the volunteers of the Bexhill Bus, sometimes known as the Yellow Bus. A great gathering at the Albatross Club, and specifically, and just think about this, an award in the form of a certificate to someone called Brian Lovell, who has just done 45 years of volunteering. That's more volunteering than what I've actually worked, and it's phenomenal. And I was quite taken aback.
He's one of the original volunteers.
He is. He painted a picture of the creation of that service that is provided, and people just see it all the time, and they'd only moan about it if it wasn't there. So I was really pleased to be there. The turning on of the Christmas lights, first was Sidley. The spirit shown in Sidley always amazes me, and there must have been 400 people who popped in and out of the Freedom Church. They even got me taking penalties, which was quite hilarious. The town celebration, I believe this year moved it on to another level. There were more stalls there in a concentrated area, and it seemed just as many people as the previous year, and that is despite the very poor weather early doors on that day. I think there may have been more. So thank you for the officers for the work that you all did to put that on. It really puts us in a good light. And even post that event, people are still putting photographs of the Christmas tree on social media saying how good we are at the Christmas tree in Bexhill. So finally, I would like to wish you all a very happy Christmas or end of year, and the celebrations that you may have with friends and family, and I really do look forward to what 2026 will bring towards us. And I will forward that out. And so I move on to item 9, reports from councillors. That is the quickest I've seen a county councillor move. Councillor Hollidge, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I've heard a lot of good information from your councillors today. Councillor Peters, excellent motion, well debated. Councillor Blagrove and Conor Winter, very good points. And the key point that I didn't understand, you mentioned that these 31 assets on the green list. I haven't seen it. It could be there. It could be made available for the public. And I think a lot of the debate today the public would have liked to have seen. So your point about transparency, I think, is quite right. And your motion may not have been needed had there been transparency in the first place. So I believe the public should know what the increase in the budget at 121%. That's a personal feeling. Yeah. My suggestion to you isn't what you do is up to you because you're all elected councillors. Is that you move away from the call from devolution and call it asset transfers, because there is confusion. I chair the scrutiny review, devolution and local government reorganisation, and the Devolution and Communities Act is going through Parliament. So that's something that the public understand or should do. By calling it devolution on your paper, it can possibly cause confusion. I don't understand at the moment what assets are being transferred from Rother, whether they are an actual asset that you are going to own and be able to get money from. I see the 227 on the list as income generation. But I don't see if it's whether it's a liability. I don't see whether there's a lease or ownership. So if I can't see it, and I'm studying these figures, the public don't either. So I would suggest that you make that
and we'll take that away.
available. I notice, unfortunately, that your grass cutting bill, which is an East Sussex thing, has gone up from 2024 26,000. Its actual cost was 36,000, and now we're charging you 46,000. I would like to ensure, and if you're not getting value for money, East Sussex County Council need to do their job properly, and because it's a major increase of 30%, which I think the public should get fair value from. Devolution, we regret that the government has made what I think is the wrong decision to stop the mayoral elections in 26. What it means for the public is that the £38 million per year for 30 years is delayed. We're not going to get that money for Sussex, so that causes a problem. We had all the plans in place. There will be, the way it's looking at the moment, a combined county authority covering the 3 areas, West Sussex, East Sussex, Brighton and Hove. That will be created. So all those things will be in place and it will continue, but without a mayor and without the government money, which is regrettable. During 26, we will be looking at local government reorganisation. You're pretty much ahead of the game, but the local reorganisation that we're doing is what the work of the district and boroughs are currently doing, and the East Sussex County Council to merge all their ready for May 27, where we will start then with a continuing authority and a shadow authority. And that will then carry on planned, but the government could change their mind at any time. Councillor Drayson mentioned Steve Reed's diktat yesterday, which I've gone and I've read the 12 different things, and it's all about accelerating homes, and Bexhill will change. The projection of 912 homes for the whole of Rother is unlikely to be. You've read the local plan yourself. You know what your predictions are, and that's going to come out for consultation next year. And I read it, and I feel that the neighbourhood plan that we were looking at, it calls it into question. There's another bit of doubt about it. So I think you're right to hold it on the budget line. 20,000, it may or may not happen. Read that paper which is out for consultation. I think it finishes middle 13th of March for that one. I've got here, which I read, it's the 4th time I've read this, History of East Sussex County Council 1889 to 1974. When I give it back to the library, I strongly recommend that everybody reads that. From the 1889 and 1880 goes to Corn Law, the Poor Law, Boer War, First World War, Second World War. It gives you the history, but everything in here throughout the years that we're discussing now has been discussed all the time, exactly the same problems. But I've got here marked in 1957 we had 71 people over the age of 90 in East Sussex. Whichever graph I look at, it's difficult to get it, but I reckon we've now got over 10,000 people above the age of 90. There are about 250 people over 100, and we've got our own Harry Waddingham here, the grandfather of Hannah Waddingham that you saw on the Remembrance Sunday at Albert Hall, 109. So the ageing population is, I think, a great success story for everybody, but it does mean that we will and should look after, rightfully, these people. And that means that our deficit for East Sussex County Council, part of that, is £54 million. We can't afford it. We've got to ask the government for exceptional financial support, which means we're going to have to pay in debt. So there is a need for local government reorganisation. And Councillor Crotty isn't here to remind me that the lights aren't switched on in Western Road, but if you've got any issues, please report them. I would do my best to get the potholes filled, the lights switched on. And the parking, I can talk about that as well, which will be coming out in February, and there will be an opportunity of people that do object to some of the things that have been agreed on to go to planning, and I'll go with them to planning if any of your residents want it. Any questions?
I'd rather not encourage questions because we're quite short on time, unless there's any burning questions for Councillor Hollidge. I would add that we are, as a town council, looking at potentially taking on the grass cutting ourselves in future years.
Good.
Potentially. It's minuted and noted somewhere or other in one committee.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Ward district councillors. Anybody wish to speak?
You go first.
Ward district councillors.
Sorry.
Got three. No. Okay. Ward reports from town councillors.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. It's about the pothole campaign again. The worst road in Colinton is Ashcombe Drive currently. That on Friday, 20 of the 109 potholes were filled in. So that's it. That's the report.
Good progress. Good. Thank you. Councillor Blagrove.
Being the councillor for Kewhurst, I would like to bring a nice story, which was a year ago, quite in the face of adversity. I opened a group called the Rother Forum. This is a self-funding group and for public meetings. So this year we've completed 6 of the public meetings. These have all been recorded, and we've had people like the leader of East Sussex County Council, we've had East Sussex County Councillors, Bexhill Town Councillors and RDC Councillors all attend, the local police, and we've had a really great year. And we've gone on now to doing some fundraising, and we have successfully raised over 2 events £670, which £548 we done about 4 months ago for breast cancer now. They were very grateful of that. And for Surviving Christmas, we were able to give them £125 when we done our event on the 6th of December. We've also, which we were all really pleased about, the committee are all volunteers, and we got an accreditation from RVA, which really delighted me because it's not been an easy run to keep this going. We've got 6 more planned for next year, and we'll be doing more fundraising, and I think that's where that is going to go, where we can put on events and make some money and give it. It won't be, I don't know, I can't say it's going to be huge amounts, but it can be and will be available for people that need it. So that's my good story.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Again, thank you to Councillor Holland here. We did successfully get a drop curb put in by the Jet Garage in Bexhill with the aid of, again, collaboration with an RDC councillor and myself. The lady in question is absolutely needed this because where she lives, she couldn't get out and about properly without a wheelchair, and because of the degenerative disease that she's got. Now with that in place, she's able to get out, go shopping and get around. And again, thank you, Councillor Wally, for the support for that. And it's a great success. It's one of many that needs doing, but it's a good start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good news story. Oh, the benefits of having a Bexhill Town Council, eh? Anyone else? Otherwise I'm going to move on. We've got 2 motions. Oh no, sorry. Planning matters. I'm jumping ahead. Item 10. That's being deferred because we're trying to get an update on that, which I've already mentioned previously. So that will come up on the, hopefully we'll have some information by the January full council meeting. Item 11, again, we're pending further comments on that, so that needs to be deferred. It's a bit of a trend here. To receive an update on the draft heads of terms for the villas, that's going to be deferred as well because we don't have an update, mainly due to the fact that we've only had 3 weeks since the last full council and our clerk hasn't been here for lots of that time. So, item 12, external representatives. I issued a report that's gone out to everyone from the neighbourhood board. I only did that because our clerk wasn't at the neighbourhood board meeting because she was unwell, just to let you all know. So we get to item 13. I would like to suggest that we defer both of these sets of motions until the new year because mine has some knock-on effects from 11B and I'm very conscious of time and we have to finish at 9 o'clock and I believe the information we're going to talk about in 17 and 18 will need close on an hour. So unless, and irrelevant of whether we do or we don't, Councillor Drayson, yours are relevant to the next set of elections potentially, so that if it's done in January, that's still in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Chair. I I would agree with that, and I was going to suggest it if we were pushed for time, but I would like to make one point, because as I was going to start my talk tonight, your motion is on the agenda word for word. Mine are two meaningless lines which mean absolutely nothing to the public. They refer to the documents that were sent to councillors but not on the website as appendices. So any public watching anything would not have a clue with what we're talking about.
Okay.
So can those please be put as an appendix to the next meeting? Thank you.
I'll concur.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Dration, that's my mistake.
Yes. Yes is a simple answer.
Thank you.
So are you happy for
Yes.
them to be deferred to the next meeting? Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Correspondence and matters for information? There is none. To consider any new risks to be added to the risk register? Does anybody have any risks that they might want to consider adding? No hands raising, so I'll move on. So that timely takes us to the date of the next meeting is the 28th of January. Motions to be received by the 17th of January 2026. So at that point, I'm now going to close the meeting to the public. Thank you.